My sister Emma went missing on October 7th, 2024. The last message from her came at 11 p.m. on Monday night. Just a photo of an old chest in the attic and 3 words, "Found something strange." I called her immediately, but her phone was unreachable. I thought the battery had died. She often forgot to charge her phone. The next day, she didn't show up for work, didn't answer Mom, and wasn't home. The police arrived the next evening, took statements, looked at the chest photo, and said adults have the right to leave when they want. Detective Ryan Morse said 90% of missing persons are found within 48 hours. Emma was 26, adult, no debts, no legal issues, no mental health problems. Maybe she decided to take a break, get away from the town, from the family, but I knew it wasn't like that. Emma volunteered at the community hall in Ridgewell, an old building from 1928. It had been a lumberjacks club, then a warehouse, then a municipal center. Every October, volunteers prepared it for the county Halloween festival. Emma signed up a month ago with 3 others. Coordinator Jennifer Craig said Emma came every evening Monday through Thursday, tidying the main hall, sorting props, cleaning the stage. The last time she was seen was at 8 p.m. on October 7th. She said she'd stay a couple more hours to finish inventorying costumes. No one saw her after that. I went to the building the next morning. It stood on a hill 2 miles from downtown Marlow Springs, our mountain town in West Virginia. A gray 3-story building with peeling paint and old iron-framed windows. Parking lot was overgrown with grass. The front door was locked with 2 locks. Jennifer said she didn't have keys. They stayed with Emma. The police didn't break in as there was no evidence of a crime. I returned at night with a crowbar and flashlight. A first-floor back window wasn't locked. I knew that because Emma complained about drafts last year when I helped her move boxes of decorations. I slipped inside and turned on the flashlight. The main hall looked normal. Chairs were stacked against the wall. The stage was clean. The floor swept. I walked to the service stairs and climbed to the 2nd floor. There were 3 dressing rooms and a storage room. In one room on the table lay Emma's backpack. I recognized it by the patch of a band she listened to. Inside were keys, a wallet, a water bottle, and a notebook. I opened the notebook. The first pages were ordinary, task lists, notes about buying paint for the walls, fixing the lamp in the corner on the stage, ordering new tablecloths. Then the entries became strange. On October 4th, climbed to the attic for old garlands, found a chest by the far wall with masks or papier-mâché heads inside. 12 pieces, very detailed. For some reason, their faces seemed familiar. On October 5th, returned to the chest. Now there were 13 heads. I counted carefully yesterday. Maybe I was wrong. October 6th, 14. I wasn't wrong. They multiply. I photographed each one, tried to find information about them in the archives of the hall, but found nothing. Mr. Dorsey, the last caretaker of the building, died in 2002. Maybe he made them. Jennifer said he was an artist. October 7th, 16 heads. I can't stop thinking about them. One looks a lot like me. I want to take it, but I'm afraid. Why afraid? It's just papier-mâché. Today I'll stay longer. I need to figure this out. The last entry cut off. I climbed to the attic. The hatch was open. A ladder stood beneath it. I climbed up and shone my flashlight into the darkness. The attic was large, filled with old furniture, boxes, and rolled-up rugs. By the far wall stood a wooden chest with iron hinges. I approached and opened it. Inside were heads, 23 of them. They lay neatly, faces up, detailed, painted with realistic hair made of wool or canvas. I looked at them and felt a chill crawl down my spine. One head was an exact copy of Emma's face. I took the diary and backpack and returned home. I didn't sleep until morning. At 6 a.m., I called the police and said I had found evidence. Detective Morse arrived within an hour, read the diary, and looked at the photos of the heads I had taken in the attic. He said it was interesting, but not proof of a crime. The heads could have been there for years. Emma might have left on her own after writing the last entry. Her phone hadn't been found. No signs of a struggle. He promised to return to the building with a team the next day, inspect the attic, and interview the other volunteers. I knew that wasn't enough. I went to the Marlow Springs Library. The librarian, March Collins, had worked there for 40 years. She remembered everything. I asked her about the building on Ridgeview Hill, about Mr. Dorsey, about anything strange related to the Halloween festival. March was silent for a while, then said I should look through old newspapers. She took me to the archives, brought files of the local newspaper from the past 50 years. I found 3 articles. October 1984. A girl named Carol Ann Preston went missing. 21 years old, a student, volunteering for the Halloween festival prep. Last seen in the community hall on Ridgeview Hill. She was found 32 days later in the woods 5 miles from town. She was alive but mute. Never spoke again. She was placed in a psychiatric hospital. October 1991. A man named David Wells disappeared. 34 years old, a history teacher, helped organize the festival. Last contact was in the building on the hill. Found after 28 days. Alive, no injuries, but mute and unresponsive to stimuli. Transferred to a specialized institution. October 2003. A woman named Melissa Chang disappeared. 29 years old, an artist and volunteer. Last seen at Ridgeview Hill. Found 26 days later in the woods, alive, mute, diagnosed with catatonic stupor. March stood beside me as I read. Mr. Dorsey was the caretaker for the building during all 3 cases, she said. Police had checked him but found nothing. He was always elsewhere when people disappeared. He said the building was special, needed protecting. He made masks for old rituals once performed in the mountains before the war. After his death in 2002, the building was closed for 2 years, then reopened for the festival. No one else disappeared, until Emma. I asked March if she knew what happened to those people. Carol died in 2009, she said. David in 2015. Melissa still lived in a private clinic in Agawam. None of them ever spoke again. I returned to the Ridgeview building at 10 p.m. Took a flashlight, a knife, a fully charged phone, and a spare battery. I didn't know what I was looking for, but knew I had to stay. Emma was there. I felt it. I slipped in again through the back window, walked into the main hall. The silence was thick and oppressive. I climbed to the 2nd floor, then to the attic. The chest was in the same place. I opened it. Now there were 26 heads. I sat beside them, studying each one. They were incredibly detailed. Wrinkles around the eyes, skin texture, individual eyebrow hairs. Emma's head lay in the 3rd row. Her eyes were closed, lips slightly parted, as if sleeping. Took out my phone, photographed all the heads, emailed the pictures to myself, then began searching for information about Mr. Dorsey online. Thomas Cracker Dorsey was born in 1926 in Marlow Springs. He worked as a caretaker at the building on Ridgeview Hill from 1953 until his death. He was known as a master mask maker. He participated in old mountain rituals. He was never married and was buried at the town cemetery. I found several old photographs. Dorsey was a tall, thin man with a long face and sunken eyes. In one photo, he was standing on stage in the main hall holding a mask resembling a deer's head. Later, I found an article in a local history magazine. It was written in 1997. The author investigated ancient rites in the mountains. There was a paragraph about Dorsey. Thomas Dorsey claimed that the building on Ridgeview Hill was built on the site of an ancient Shawnee tribe ritual circle. According to local legends, that place was used for transitional rituals when spirits of the dead returned to Earth on specific nights of the year. Dorsey created masks for modern interpretations of those rites, performed in the 30s and 40s. He believed masks could preserve a person's memory if prepared correctly. He never revealed his exact methods. I put down the phone. It was 2 a.m. I decided to go downstairs and inspect the basement. Emma had written she hadn't checked it. The basement was behind the door, next to the stage in the main hall. I crawled down a narrow staircase, shining the flashlight ahead. The basement was larger than I expected. Several rooms connected by corridors, old pipes on the ceiling, a smell of dampness and mold. In the first room were shelves with boxes. I opened a few, old costumes, decorations, props. In the second room, there was a long table with tools, brushes, paints, glue jars, spools, twine. In the corner was a pile of old newspapers. I took the top one. It was a clipping about a local harvest festival, a photograph of a group of people in animal masks. I looked at other newspapers, all about festivals, rituals, masks. I moved to the third room. There was an altar, a simple wooden table against the far wall. On it lay candles, bunches of dried herbs, a small bowl with black sand. Behind the table, a map of the surroundings was pinned to the wall, marked with red crosses. I stepped closer. The crosses were drawn at different points in the forest around the town. 13. Beneath each were initials and dates. KP October 80, DU October 91, MCO October 2003. The last cross was fresh. The ink hadn't dried completely. Echo October 2024. Emma Harrigan, my sister. I heard a sound upstairs. Slow, steady footsteps in the main hall. I turned off the flashlight, pressed myself against the wall. The footsteps approached the basement door, then stopped. Silence lasted for a minute, 2, 3. Then someone began to descend the stairs. I stood in the third room holding a knife, breathing shallow. The footsteps reached the bottom step, stopped again. I heard heavy, raspy breathing. "Matt," a voice said. It was Emma's voice. "Matt, don't hide. I know you're here." I didn't respond. The footsteps moved down the corridor, entered the first room, sounds of boxes being opened. Then to the second room, sounds of tools being moved. Then the voice again. "Matt, I'm cold. Help me." I stepped out of the third room, turned on my flashlight, and shone it down the corridor. No one was there. I checked the first room, empty. The second, empty. I climbed back up to the main hall. Empty. I looked at my phone, 3:17 a.m. I climbed to the second floor, then up to the attic. The chest was open. All the heads stared at me. Their eyes were open, all 26 pairs of eyes. They didn't move, but I felt they were watching me. Emma's head lay in the center. Her lips were moving. "Don't come up," she whispered. "I don't want you to see." I stepped back, tripped over a box, fell. The flashlight slipped from my hand and rolled toward the chest. The beam of light fell on the heads, and I saw. They were crying. All 26 heads wept. Tears streamed from their eyes, ran down their cheeks, dripped into the bottom of the chest. Emma's head looked straight at me. "Matt," she said, "I'm here. I'm always here. We are all here." I grabbed my flashlight, hurried down from the attic, ran out the back window and to my car, started it, and drove away. I didn't return to the building until dawn. In the morning, I sat in my car in the parking lot in front of the Ridgeview building. Detective Morris arrived at 8 a.m. with 2 officers. I told him everything: the diary, the old articles, the basement, altar, map with crosses, the heads. Morse listened, took notes, nodded. He said they would inspect the building. I went with them. We climbed to the attic. The chest was closed. Morse opened it. Inside were 26 heads. Their eyes were shut, faces peaceful, no tears. One of the officers photographed them. Morse said this was important, but not proof of a crime. They would take the heads for examination. We went down to the basement. I showed them the altar, the map, and the crosses. Morse looked long at the map. "These are places where missing persons were found," he said. 13. He checked archives but was certain. He turned to me. "Your sister could be at one of these points. We'll start searching today." Search teams began sweeping the forest at noon using the map coordinates. I went with one group. We walked up a mountain slope through thick bushes and streams. After 4 hours, we found her. Emma lay by the base of an old oak tree at a marked spot. She wore the same clothes she had on the day she disappeared. No injuries, no signs of struggle. She was breathing but didn't open her eyes. An ambulance rushed her to the hospital. Doctors examined her, ran tests, did a CT scan. Physically, she was healthy, but she was somewhere far away. I sat by her bedside for 3 days, talking to her, reading to her, holding her hand. She didn't respond. On the 4th day, I returned to the Ridgeview building. The police had finished their inspection, taken all the heads, and sealed the basement. The building was empty again. I slipped through the back window and climbed to the attic. The chest stood open, but empty. I went down to the basement. The altar was untouched. The map still hung on the wall. I looked at the bowl of black sand. Next to it lay a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. Written in old-fashioned handwriting with ink. The building remembers, the masks hold the memory. To bring back the one who's gone, you must break his mask. But the memory will not return. It will stay here forever. Thomas Cracker Dorsey, October 19th, 1984. I folded the note, put it in my pocket, and left the building. I came back the next day with a sledgehammer. The police kept the heads in the evidence room at the station. I couldn't get in there, but I knew another place. I returned to the basement, to the 3rd room with the altar. I picked up the bowl of black sand and looked behind the table. There was a small wooden door without a handle. I pressed on it. It opened inward. Behind the door was a room the size of a storage shed. The walls were lined with shelves. On the shelves were heads. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Old and dusty, with cracked paint, all with open eyes staring at me. I stepped inside. The flashlight barely pierced the darkness. I walked between the shelves, stared at the faces. Young, old, men, women, children, all frozen in one expression, silent, pleading. In the far corner, I found her. Emma's head sat alone on the bottom shelf. Her eyes were open, staring straight ahead. Her lips moved, but there was no sound. I set the flashlight on the floor and lifted the sledgehammer. "Matt," a whisper came. "You don't have to." I hit. The head shattered into pieces. Papier-mâché, paint glue, straw, nothing more. But at the moment I struck, I felt something. A breath of cold wind, a sound like a sigh. The walls of the room trembled. I stepped back. The shelves shook. Heads fell to the floor, breaking one after another. Dozens, hundreds. The room filled with sound, whispers, moans, cries, thousands of voices. I grabbed the flashlight, ran out of the room and slammed the door shut. The sound didn't stop. I ran down the corridor, up the stairs, through the main hall, and out the back window. I didn't look back. Emma woke up the next day. Doctors called it a miracle. She opened her eyes at 6 a.m., looked at Mom, and smiled. But she remembered nothing. The last thing she recalled was October 3rd, 2024. She had come to the Ridgeview Hall for the first time, met Jennifer, received her task list. Then a void, 10 days erased. The doctors said this was normal after trauma, but there was no injury. I didn't tell her about the diary, the heads, or the basement. I told her she got lost in the woods, hit her head, and lost her memory. She believed me and was discharged a week later. She came home, returned to work. Everything was normal, almost. A month later, I visited her. She lived alone in a small house on the edge of Marlow Springs. We drank tea in the kitchen, talked about the weather, about work and Christmas plans. Then I heard a sound from the basement. "What's that?" I asked. "Nothing," Emma said. "Probably a pipe." The sound repeated, scratching, then a quiet knocking. I went down the stairs to the basement, turned on the light. The basement was small, with concrete walls, an old washing machine, some boxes, and a table in the corner. On the table lay brushes, paints, jars of glue, spools, and twine. Next to it stood a nearly finished papier-mâché head. I stepped closer. The head was an exact copy of my face. Emma came down the stairs, stood beside me, looked at the head, then at me. "You freed me," she said quietly. "Now I have to free you." Her voice was calm, her eyes empty. I stepped back toward the stairs. Emma smiled. "The building doesn't let go of Matt. It just moves." I left her house, got in my car, and drove away. I haven't returned. But every night I hear a sound, scratching, quiet knocking, somewhere far, somewhere near, and I know she's working, making a new head. And one day, she will finish. Thank you for watching.